Due to capitalist propaganda, the average person, particularly in the United States, has absolutely no idea what socialism is. And they have a ton of misconceptions surrounding socialism. So I'm going to address a very common misconception in this video, and hopefully it will help you understand socialism a bit more. Okay, so the misconception that I want to address is that people will conflate socialism with authoritarianism or totalitarianism or a dictatorship of some sort, or they believe that socialism means that the government owns everything. Okay, so let's start with the first part here, with socialism meaning authoritarianism. Well, you have to understand what is the definition of socialism first. Socialism means collective ownership of the means of production for the good of the people, right? The means of production is not used for profit. The means of production is used for the needs of the citizens, okay? And what are the means of production? If you don't know, that's just the machines, the tools, the factories, the materials, the resources that people need to do their job, to work, okay? And think about your own place of work, what materials you need. Those are the means of production, okay? And under capitalism, you have private owners of the means of production. And as such, they're the ones who are entitled to the profit of the company because they own the means privately, okay? And workers work for a wage. And then under socialism, you have collective ownership. So the workers own the means of production collectively, and there is no private owner, okay? A simple way, if that still doesn't make sense to you, a simple way to think about it is that capitalism, the capitalist model for like a business, is a monarchy of the workplace where you have a private owner, right, who's the king, and then the workers are subjects, right? The subjects don't get a say in how the company is run, right? Or ownership of the profits, it goes to the king or the owner, right? Versus under socialism, it's a democracy of the workplace where you could still have leaders, but they would be democratically elected, right? And the workers would all have a say and ownership of their company, okay? So going back to authoritarianism here, socialism is inherently a democratic process, a democratic system, right? And socialism ultimately is the process of going from a capitalist society to the end goal of a communist society, which is ultimately classless, stateless, and moneyless. So it would start with something as simple as, instead of having monarchies of the workplace, you would have democracies of the workplace, right? But then from there, it might still be for profit, right? Like even though the workers are collectively owning their means, they're still operating for profit. And socialism is not about profit. It is about meeting the needs of the citizens, right? And so this is where the government comes in, right? In a later stages of socialism, and where socialism has had trouble in the past, where the government will own the means of production, okay? And if the government owns the means of production, it really depends on how democratic your government truly is. If you have an authoritarian, centralized government, it's a lot easier to corrupt, right? The more centralized the government is, the easier it is to corrupt. And then if you have a leader who basically seizes all the means of production and uses those means for their own financial gain, and the workers aren't seeing the benefits and they're not sharing the wealth, it is no longer socialism anymore. And it's basically just government-run capitalism at that point. The private owner now just has the backing of the state, because now the private owner is just the dictator or whatever, and that's no longer socialism anymore. But if you truly have a democratic country, and the means of production are owned by the government, but the officials are elected, and they truly go ahead and use the means for the people and to spread the wealth out and help make the lives of their citizens better and raise the standard of living for all, then yes, that is socialism, okay? And so hopefully this helps you understand or addresses the misconception about socialism and how it is not about authoritarianism, and it just means that government owns everything. And I just want to add quickly at the end here, even if the government does own the means of production to be used collectively by the workers to share the fruit of all of it, that doesn't mean that workers can't own their own personal property, right? You're still allowed to own things. It's just that you cannot own the means of things to produce, like a factory. But if you can own your own personal home you live in, or your own toothbrush, or your own luxury goods, right? You're still allowed ownership of those things. You're just not allowed private ownership of things that people need to use to do their jobs, the means of production.